There's like a double handful, maybe, of films that have tried to do what James Cameron's Avatar has done. Maybe less than that. $200 or $300 million PG-13 sci-fi epics aren't exactly easy even for Hollywood to throw around these days. And they're risky. Even when they make money, which they often do, they get thrashed more often than not by critics. And the studios, cynical as they are, they have to know that with films like the Transformers sequel, they may be making $500 million, but they're not exactly making a new generation of fans. Not the way that they did when they released the original 3 Star Wars films, or the Indiana Jones films anyways. They're not inspiring people. A lot of people saw Transformers 2. A lot of people may have even enjoyed Transformers 2. But I've never met anyone that loved Transformers 2. So, when you're talking about Avatar, when you're talking about what it gets right and what it gets wrong as a film out there in the world that you might pay money to go see, you got to be cognizant, which somebody told me means aware, of the niche that it occupies, the very small, very rarefied, but very incredibly, incomprehensibly expensive niche that it operates in. And compared to the rest of the films that fit in that niche, compared to the Spider-Man 3s, and compared to the Transformers 1s and 2s, and the 2012s and the Days After Tomorrow, Avatar is Citizen Kane. It's pure imagination. It's pure imagination writ huge in glowing neon colors across the screen for 2.5 hours in 3 dimensions. There are no shortcuts. It's just hard work and creativity. It earns our attention. It entertains and it wants to do nothing else. There's no cynical pandering, no fresh take on an old idea. There's no slow motion Megan Fox's ass, no wisecracking sidekick. It just wants to entertain and be original. It's not an adaptation, it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, it's not a remake, it's not a C-prequel. It's just new, and every frame is so jammed with incredibly polished, unbelievably imaginative visuals that when you hear about James Cameron wanting to make this movie for 10 years and not being able to because the technology wasn't there and blah, blah, blah. When you see the movie, you actually kind of go, okay, yeah, he was right. They couldn't have made this movie 10 years ago. They couldn't have made this movie a year ago. And I don't know how they made this movie this year. It's not just an evolution, it's some kind of exponential generational leap past everything that's come before it. And it's absolutely the new standard and the new bar in big budget sci-fi filmmaking. That said, there are some very real, very funny problems with it. It's a story. A multinational corporation, which is evil, goes to an alien planet called Pandora, which is inhabited by a whole bunch of weird animals and trees and plants, and also some blue-skinned people called the Na'vi, who are 14 feet tall and made of carbon fiber, because they want to mine the planet for this metal called unobtainium that they need for some reason. The film from there becomes the kind of semi-obvious parable about not just ecological destruction, but also the way that white Western culture has oppressed and destroyed indigenous populations and their cultures around the world. What's weird, and it may be weird just because of the way the film has been marketed so far, but you didn't realize that Avatar was a Western movie. The Na'vi aren't just vague indigenous populations. They're not aliens. They're literally the cultural idea that we have from cowboy movies in the 50s and 60s about what Apache warriors were like. They have braids and mohawks and they ride horses and they shoot bows and arrows from horseback. It's really off-putting when you realize that they're natives. It's really off-putting when you see them sitting Indian style, to use a rude phrase, waving their hands back and forth and singing a spiritual song as they pray in front of a giant tree. It's kind of funny. It's really hard to take seriously stuck into the middle of this movie, and you kind of think, this is really lame and really seems out of place. And there are a bunch of moments like that in Avatar. It's also a little slow and a little long, the middle act where Sam Worthington's character, the main character, learns the ways of the Na'vi people and trains the beasts of the forest using his new Na'vi skills. It gets a little tiresome, it's kind of cliched, and it's kind of boring. But that being said, all of the weird, hokey, New Age spirituality, all of the out of nowhere, you're dealing with Apache warriors from a cowboy film. The film is so good outside of that, and so good at what it is, which is an enormously expensive sci-fi blockbuster, that it just becomes moments of laughter and moments of boredom in what's otherwise an incredibly entertaining 2.5 hours at the theater. And I give it a 8.5 out of 10.